This 3 News special feature is proudly sponsored by the Davis Law Firm.
Hey there, everyone, and thank you so much for being here with us. I'm Leslie Adami.
And I'm Simone Simpson.
Yeah, we have this very special project that we have been working on here at 3 News, celebrating Black History Month right here in the Coastal Bend.
And you know, Leslie, what's so special is that I've been living here for a year now. And what I cherish so much is when I'm out in the field getting my story, is when people come up to me and share their life experience and their stories.
I love that.
So what better way than to have that conversation with various age groups from different backgrounds.
Absolutely. And so to help us with this conversation, we have invited some panelists from right here in our community. And so to help us out, some of the guests that we have invited are Matt Manning, Nikela Pradier, and Jay Winfrey. So thank you all so much for being here with us.
Absolutely. And representing the other side of our panel group is Charles Burns, Pastor Harry Williams, and Dr. Gloria Scott.
Wonderful. And we appreciate y'all. We know you're all very, very busy people, but y'all also have so much influence and so much impact on fellow community residents here in the Coastal Bend. So we really appreciate y'all taking time out of your schedules to spend some with us. So without further ado, I say, let's go ahead and get started. All right. So my first question will be for Matt, Nikela, and Jay. And that is, all of you, again, are in positions and have platforms that promote leadership and they have influence. So what's the biggest message that you try to get out to our youth when it comes to making a difference? Matt?
You have a duty to act, and the gifts that you are given, you have a duty to employ on behalf of your people and on the behalf of the betterment of society. I tell people often, my clients, I have a law degree, but my law degree is our law degree. If something happens in the community, I'm going to be there every time without fail, because I'm a father of 3 young boys. And I want those boys to understand that it is their duty at all times to act. If they can help, they have to do that. And I think, you know, that is emblematic of what we have seen in our community from time immemorial, but most recently in the civil rights movement. Everyone who was involved acted at their own peril. So that's the message I would have. I think any influence that we have would be really built upon our ability to act and our ability to affect change and our ability to do so at our own peril. I mean, because the truth is, it's easier now to stand in the gap than it ever has been. And if we don't do that, then I think we're shirking our duty as Black people and as people in positions of power, if you can call it that.
All right, Matt, thank you. Nikela?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Matt said, I would say that I try to emphasize that there's a place for everybody in whatever the movement or the cause is going to be. You will have people who, you know, kind of naturally gravitate towards the front because they have a, you know, more powerful voice. They're more extroverted. And so they'll come out and they'll speak about these things. But just because that's not your personality doesn't mean that you can't get involved and have some part in it. So, you know, as Matt said, your skill set, your talents can be utilized in some kind of way to get out some kind of message and act out or speak out on behalf of our people. So I would say don't shy away from doing things just because your personality might not be the one who grabs the bullhorn or is in the front with the sign, the biggest sign, leading the charge. You have talents that can be utilized for the betterment of our people in our community. So don't shy away from that. And if it takes, you know, matching up with another individual or an organization that has a similar mission, similar cause, then do that, because there are power in numbers. And I think that's what we've seen now, is that when there's a coalition of people who can really work towards something to accomplish a goal, then we can have real power and influence. So that's what we should be using our influence for.
Power in numbers. I love that. Jay, same question for you.
They took all of it. Wow. I like what she said. You know, just find, you don't have to be in the front to do what you need to do if you don't like that. You just find your niche and make a change for yourself. Yeah. Trying to find the impact. Try to find what needs to be done and try your best to fix it. You know.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thanks, you guys. We are starting off strong, Simone.
Yes,
I loved all those answers. Thank y'all.
Yes, and thank you, Jay. Finding your impact. I love that. And so the next question will be for Charles, Pastor Williams, and Dr. Gloria Scott. Did you feel like there was an extra weight on your shoulders to carry out a successful career, knowing there aren't many people in Corpus Christi who look like you, and why?
when I think about that question, I want to refer back to my parents and also to the forefathers of all the people and what they went through to help me get to where I am today. And I think about my progress and what I've done, and I don't know if there was any pressure to get to that point. I just look at, they instilled in me a work ethic to do the right thing and to work as hard as you can each and every day. And had they not done that, you know, my mother picked cotton back in the day. So if they hadn't done what they had done to help me get the education and the work ethic, I'm just thinking that it was all about them.
Thank you, Charles. Pastor Williams?
I've had 2 careers, and the first career was being a marketing rep with IBM. And when you ask about the extra weight as it relates to career, being black is an extra weight. And we take that with us wherever we go. And so in Corpus Christi in 1973, to have a job with IBM Corporation, that was huge. And so did I feel the weight? Yes. The extra weight? Yes. Being the only black in my department? Yes, that was an extra weight. And it was incumbent upon me to do my best to set an example, because I knew that I was like being the first in my department. So if other blacks were going to come behind me, I had to do my part to do the best I could to set an example so that others would have access to the same opportunity that I did. And then following that, I received my call to the church here in Corpus Christi and got to be instrumental in helping and shaping and molding young people to go out into the larger world.
Thank you, Pastor. And that's really what this is all about, is moving the youth. Dr. Scott.
Wow. When I was a little girl, I first went to 4th Missionary Baptist Church Kindergarten in Houston, Texas, where I was born. Mr. Brooks picked us up at the house I lived in all my life until I went to college at 3403 Sawyer Street, Sawyer and Holman. And every Friday, the kids got shots at the kindergarten for getting us ready for whatever things there were. So the minute his Jeep turned the corner from Holman onto Sawyer Street, the whole neighborhood heard all the children crying. Ah, ah, just crying. Nobody in there bothering them. They all knew that day was shot day. I got in and I started crying with them too, until we got down to 4th Missionary Baptist Church Kindergarten. I was really only 4 years old. My birthday is in April. And the kindergarten graduation was in the end of April, and then we got our shots, and then school didn't start until September, and you were still the same age, but you were supposed to be 6 years old in Houston to go to Houston Public Independent School District schools. So I had just turned 5, so my mother said, just shut up, don't talk to anybody about your age. We sending the information, don't worry about it. You like to talk, so just, you're 6 years old, right? But, so she said. So I started out my life on my records a year older than I was, and they stayed on that way all the time through high school until I got to be an adult.
Thank you, Dr. Scott.
Yes, thank you all. Matt, Nikela, and Jay, back to you guys. According to a Texas Tribune article published pretty recently, just this past August, Texas is home to more Black Americans than any other state. More than 3.8 million, which is about 13% of the state's population. So our pocket of South Texas, as we know, living here, is predominantly Hispanic, Catholic. And for those of you who grew up here, how often did you feel seen among your peers or your organizations or at work? Matt?
So I actually didn't grow up here. I was born and raised in Austin, and I moved here 10 years ago next month. And I would say I haven't had an issue with feeling seen here because of some of the jobs I've had and some of the opportunities I've had. But growing up in Austin, I didn't always feel seen. And I particularly didn't feel seen in Austin because Austin exports this idea of being eclectic and cultural, but it's actually one of the places that had some of the worst redlining, worst gentrification, worst issues. As an example, when I started high school, I would have been bused across town in the year 2000 to go to a school all the way across town if they hadn't built a new one. So that to me is proof positive that we're still dealing with issues that our forebears were dealing with. And with being seen, now the problem is some of it is a tokenization thing, right? We find a way to make 1 or 2 or 3 blacks emblematic of success and progress. But the reality is until all of us have the resources that we need and all of us have the quality of life that we deserve, then none of us have it. So in terms of being seen, I think that is an issue that we have in our community. But I think there's also a unique opportunity in this community because of the size of the community for us to easily galvanize and also advocate for ourselves effectively.
Still more work to do.
Absolutely.
All right, Matt. Nikela?
Yeah, I also didn't grow up here. I grew up in Houston, of course, a very diverse cultural area, but to some of the points that Matt made, there were times also where I felt like it was hard to be seen there, even in a metropolitan area as big as Houston. Here in Corpus, my experience here in the Coastal Bend, I think is a little bit different. I do think that the size of the community does give us an advantage to maybe have more of that representation. When I first moved to the community, I had a very public-facing job, obviously, and so it caused people to see me right away and to feel pride in that because representation is so important, and they had not seen much of that, when I first arrived in the community over 9 years ago. So being here now, I can appreciate that the representation really does matter to the African American population that lives here in the Coastal Bend and who have been rooted here and grew up here. So that is great. And so what I always try to relay is that just because I was born and grew up in a larger metropolitan area does not mean that we didn't face the same problems that you may face here in a smaller community. For a state as big as Texas, even though African Americans here comprise more of the population than in any other state, 13% is still, quite low. So I think that it would still cause people to know that there still is underrepresentation and there's always work to be done because if we are smaller in numbers, we have to amplify our voice more to make sure that we have a presence, we have a seat at the table, and that we have a voice in important issues that matter to us.
Powerfully said. Nikela, thank you. Jay?
Hi. There's a little, well, I grew up, I wasn't born here, but I came here and started 3rd grade here, so I've been here for a while. There is a little bit of diversity. I mean, I went to high school at Flower Bluff High School, and it's predominantly Hispanic and white, but there is some black people in there. There's some Hispanics that we all got along with, and it was cool. But no, don't get me wrong. But there is room to grow. Like as I'm a business owner, there's not too many black business owners. There's not too many black businesses like that since I started. But now that I've grown, and actually there's a couple people under me that started their own businesses from doing what I'm doing. So that's really cool to see how doing what I'm doing is giving inspiration to people to start their own thing, and they're all black-owned businesses as well. So I think that's as long as I keep going and doing my thing, I feel like they're gonna see that and be like, oh, I can do it too. So the more the merrier, in my opinion.
I love that. It's having an impact. And Matt and Nikela, like y'all mentioned, y'all aren't from here, but it's incredible what y'all are doing with the place that you have, at least for now, have chosen to call your home and making that impact right here in our community. So thank y'all for that.
Absolutely. And moving on. So I've lived here all my life in Texas. And it's not lost on me that Texas is the birthplace of Juneteenth. So it holds a lot for Black history. So to Charles, Pastor Williams, and Dr. Scott, do you feel that Black history is being taught as much as it should in our schools? Charles, let's start with you.
going back to when I was in school, it wasn't really taught, very minimal. And then I look at over the years of my children, I have 4 kids, and what it was taught to them, it's very, and it's also very select of what is taught. You know, you may talk about slavery, you may talk about this and that. So it's very select. And now there's a debate nationally about maybe with Florida and African American studies and things like that. But locally, the answer is no. It's not being taught as much as it should be. Okay, and hopefully in the future, it's a stepping stone. With all the many things going on in the world today, maybe it'll hit a history book one day. So we're looking at getting better.
Getting better. Pastor Williams?
Yeah, well, I think it goes with when you look at the population of black people in Corpus Christi, maybe 4.5%. It's kind of representative of in terms of what happens across the board. So when it comes to studies in our school system, because we do have such a low percentage, never hear about black history being taught as long as I've been here. No big deal has been made about it except for Black History Month. When it comes along, that you get the emphasis on that. But no, it's not being taught enough. And I think that's a disservice to all of us, because the more we know about each other and the contributions that all of us have made to society, it gives us a higher appreciation for all of us and the value that all of us bring to the whole social setting. And so I don't think that we've had enough black studies within our school system, and it's something that needs to be addressed. But again, because of the low number, there's not much advocating for the studies. And it's just like representation everywhere. If you're not there, if you're not at the table, then you don't have the input. And so I think when it comes to our studies, we've not been a part of that discussion either.
Thank you, Pastor Williams. Dr. Scott?
As you know, here in Corpus Christi, Ms. Hannah Carter and I paired together, and she became the chair of the Corpus Christi Juneteenth Coalition, and I was the vice chair. So that in June, we would always, make sure the city saw and didn't have to read, and they could see it on TV, didn't have to go out and be involved in it. The 10 days of celebration from the 9th to the 19th, the 10 days celebrating the Corpus Christi Juneteenth Coalition, the freedom of slaves and Juneteenth. And so the history that should have been taught, and we still think it's not being taught as much as it should be in the schools. But at Solomon Coles High School and at Miller High School, we know it was taught. And Hannah and I implored all those schools to have their different students march in the Juneteenth parade and do things for that school so that could be seen and people would understand that there's nothing to be afraid of us because our skins are darker and deeper. But the Juneteenth Coalition, and Hannah and I just sat down and talked with many people and had them give the money of their companies. That's one way they understood how they could get money in to celebrate things. And people wouldn't have to sit and listen to lectures about it, but could see it, and that's what we've done.
Thank you, Dr. Scott.
Yeah, thank y'all. And I feel like those answers are just another huge reason why we're having this conversation, so that people who can implement change, whether what our kids are learning in our schools right now, they can be part of that conversation and have that influence and start making those changes right now. So thank y'all so much. Back to you, Matt, Nikela, and Jay. I look at y'all. I look at all of you guys, and I see people who are so successful. Matt, your nickname is literally Manning of the People. I know you take a lot of pride in that.
Sure do.
You are a successful attorney. Nikela, you have had an incredible career in communications. People probably look at you and they're like, oh my goodness, I want to be just like her. I want to do what she's doing. And Jay, you are a successful business owner. despite all your success and all the amazing things, people can look at y'all and say, oh my goodness, how do they do it? What would you say is the hardest thing that you have had to do to accomplish in order to be the success that you are today?
Well, I'd say one concrete thing and one philosophical thing. The concrete thing is when I started law school, it's completely different in terms of how you study. So when I was at Howard, I did very well, very easily. Law school, that didn't happen the first semester, let me just say that. So I really had to recalibrate how I approached it. And that was one of the earlier times in my life where I learned that if I put in the work, I can make anything happen, but I have to be committed to really that outcome. Extrapolating from that, the philosophical thing is I have to always make sure that I never doubt that I'm where I'm supposed to be. That I'm not only where I'm supposed to be, but I have what I need. And I've really tried to make my impact here, at least in my practice and in public advocacy, that you got to go through me to get to my people. If something happens to one of us out here, it's like it happens to me. And like I said, I've got 3 boys at home who are looking at me every day for an example, right, of who to be as they become men. And I want them to know that daddy's not afraid to go out and say, I will take on the world, because whatever you did to my client is something that they need justice for. And taking from that, you know, as I've developed in my practice, I've learned that I can never be afraid, because there are so many people who went before me who put their lives on the line, right? So now if I have a platform, I have a moral duty to use that platform for the betterment of all people, and especially my people.
Wow, I love that. Nikela?
Well, quite frankly, I think one of the hardest things I had to accept, and I'm sure a lot of the panelists have heard this, is that you have to work twice as hard just to be handed or to be given the opportunities that others who don't look like you automatically get. And that is really a privilege for them. And I know people are touchy about that privilege word, but I think to deny that is to deny people's experiences. And we would never want to do that. Just because you don't personally experience it, I'm not going to diminish your experience, what you've been through. So I have been in spaces where I have been the only one who looks like me, Black and female, attended a predominantly white university and had to navigate those spaces, pretty much the same in graduate school. And it led me to maybe what some would consider more of an unconventional path in getting to where I am in my career. I really feel like I'm a late bloomer. And by the time I made it here to the Coastal Bend, I was really operating in a space where there were young ladies who were 10 to 15 years younger than me, who were in similar places and positions. But I just really love what Matt said, is that you just cannot doubt where you're placed and where you're planted at that particular place in time. I truly believe that you're there for a reason. And even though it has been difficult to navigate those spaces as, you know, one of one pretty much, it's also encouraging to be in environments like this, where you really see the nurturing and the love of the people who are here and who will embrace and encourage you to keep on going, to have a voice, to have a place at the table, and to make sure that people hear you, and to know that every space that you're in, you truly deserve to be there. And I don't want to make it seem like nobody else is giving me that credit as well. I'm very fortunate to have people here in the community who support me and others who support the panelists who are here too. But yeah, I would just say, you know, accept the reality that you may have to grind a little bit harder, but it's going to lead you to the place where you're intended to be at that time.
I love all that. Oh my, Nikela, you're gonna make me emotional. That was amazing. Thank you. Jay, same for you.
Like she said, that was awesome. But yeah, like in my field, I told people just be like, it's easier said than done, but you gotta stay consistent, honestly. Especially in my field, like these clothes don't find themselves. You gotta go out and find them yourself, and if not, somebody's gonna, you know, beat you to it. And getting up every day, like I remember, like I worked 3 jobs. I worked at Goodwill, my friend's shop, before I had my own, and then I worked at Bubbles 33. So I was just working nonstop, and also on my spare time, I was trying to go thrifting and go find some stuff too as well. So it's just, you know, you just gotta keep going. There's days where I didn't want to get up, or I was tired or whatever, but I'm like, if I don't want to get where I want to get, you know, I just can't chill out, you know. And I just tell, be consistent, do your thing, try to block out all the loud noise that's be all around you while you're still on your ladder trying to go up, because there's gonna be noise as you keep growing, but you gotta just block it all out, just do you, keep good people around you and keep it pushing, honestly.
Great stuff. All right, Jay, Nikela, Matt, thank y'all so much for that.
And I just want to pinpoint something that Nikela said, because it definitely resonated with me, having to work harder than other counterparts just to be seen most times in our professions. That's huge, and I totally resonate with that. So thank you for sharing that, Nikela. And so the next topic is mental health. And so for almost every community, it's kind of a taboo topic. But here we're representing many different professions. Charles, Senior Sales and Marketing Consultant for KIII, Harry Williams, Pastor of Mount Zion Baptist Church, and Dr. Gloria Scott, activist. And so mental health is already a topic that many people don't want to talk about, but it was really heightened at the peak of the pandemic. So I would like to ask, do you feel in 2023 the topic of mental health is still taboo? Charles?
With COVID happening, it brought out a lot of things. And so it was one of those things, maybe even in the Black community, maybe it was like, keep it to yourself, don't talk to nobody. That was and maybe even as men, we don't even talk to anybody. So I look at it that COVID has brought out a lot of things, made people talk to each other, in confined spaces and everything, because we were all at home with our families or people are working remote now and things like that. But it's gotten a lot better. And I look at my son, who is a doctor of psychiatry, and he tells me his stories, and the stories of he does marriage and family counseling, he does all kinds of therapy, and his track was his educational track to get there was one of Dad, I always want to do this. He always wanted to help kids. And I remember getting my son a little internship at the Boys and Girls Club, because he said, Dad, I just want to help kids. And he stuck to that grind. And it's just like some of the other panelists that talked about. He's put in the work, and you got to work twice as hard. It's what our parents have taught us. It's what has helped me know that I got to do twice as much. So my whole thing is, I'm not going to let you outwork me. People who know me, they know that. so we put in the work, you put in the time, but it's not as taboo as what it used to be. And I think it's getting a lot better.
Thank you, Charles. Pastor Williams?
I find that mental illness is pretty much like other things that, for instance, like racism, LGBTQ community. I think there is a lack of empathy, and that when we don't see people as we see ourselves, we have a tendency to just not pay attention because it does not affect us. And I think mental illness falls into that category because it does not impact enough of our lives to where we want to get engaged and do the hard work to address it. But it's all around us. If we just go down on Leopard Street and you see these people just walking around, just talking to themselves, nothing is being done, because I don't think we care that much to where we want to intervene. And so it's not our problem. And that's the society that I'm witnessing today, is that as time goes on, it seems that we're desensitized to humanity, period. And that if it's not happening to us, we don't care much about what's going on. And so mental illness, to me, is just one of those that we just don't embrace because it does not affect us.
Thank you, Pastor. Dr. Scott?
I think there are 7 crucial intersections that have to fall on mental illness, and that, yes, it is still there. The intersection of race and poverty, the intersection of race and wealth, the intersection of race and education, the intersection of race and power, the intersection of race and gender, the intersection of race and politics, and the intersection of race and religion. All of these are focusing on the absence of any of these or any parts of them, and they all are things that humans have to deal with daily, monthly, weekly, yearly. They are all, everything considered. Poverty, wealth, and education, though, I consider them and suggest that they have lots of intersections that flow through all of the others, all the way down to race and religion. And as Martin Luther King, late Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King, the whole list of people, Shirley Chisholm, Lillian Benbow, take the baton, they always said, and make the world better by hitting with it wherever you find that intersection of race and it.
Thank you, Dr. Scott.
I love the take the baton, right? All right, Matt, Jay, Nikela, back to you guys. If you had to leave the Coastal Bend tomorrow, what is the legacy that you hope, that you wish that you would leave behind for our youth, for our community members that we have here today? Matt?
I would hope to leave behind the legacy that the answer was always yes when I got the call. I need you and I'm there. That's the legacy I want to leave. That's the legacy I've seen my father and my mother model for me, and so many people I'm blessed to be around, including people like Dr. Scott. You know, I mean, you have titans on this panel. That's the legacy I want to leave. When you called me, I came and I gave you everything I had, because I think that's I think that's our natural aesthetic as African people, is to help each other. And you call me for help, I'm gonna be there. That's the legacy I'm trying to leave.
We know we can always count on you, Matt. We know that. We love that and we appreciate you. Nikela?
I think mine would be very similar, is that hopefully I would be remembered for just showing up when the time came, not shrinking, you know, when things get hard or controversial, with my air quotes, just to know that, you know, it's not about you, things are bigger than you, but you show up and do what you can to affect change in that way, right? And I really don't consider myself alone on an island in doing these things. As Matt said, I mean, they're truly powerful people on this panel who have been making change and difference in this community, you know, years before I even came here, right? But I think it's good to see what they have done, reflect on that, and then of course pick that up and move on from there. And I don't think that I've done that in the present alone. I'm fortunate to be a part of groups, organizations, movements, coalitions that have done the same thing. And so just showing up and being there, I think, is the most important thing.
Thank you, Nikela. Jay?
Mine would probably be hard work, you know. If whoever been following me since day one, they know that nothing but work got me here. I've worked literally every day, all day, never took a break off. June 9th would be 5 years, and I've been at the shop literally every single day. When I leave, if I do leave here, or whatever the case may be, they will see into hopefully the more stores that I have out here. They'll see how much the hard work that me and my partners did, and they'll see like, okay, I gotta do this to get me here, you know, or I gotta do this. It's gonna be a bunch of inspiration behind all of it, but for the most part, yeah, hard work, like, you just gotta work to get you where you wanna go, honestly.
All right, Jay, thank you. Now, selfishly, of course, I don't want any of you guys to leave the Coastal Bend, because you guys have had such a huge impact on so many community members in so many different ways. We are just about wrapping up here, but something that y'all mentioned about the panelists that we have here with us today. You guys are titans, giants in our community, and sadly, we lost one pretty recently, Reverend Adam Carrington. I think back to our interviews with him, and We appreciate his insight so much, but of course we want to hear from you guys about that loss and that legacy. Whoever wants to, that is open to anybody, whoever wants to start.
I was impressed with him. I didn't know who he was, and being a minister here, celebrating my 39th year this weekend, all of a sudden I saw this young man on television, and he was addressing what was going on in Hillcrest. And I wanted to know, who is this guy? Because for somebody to just step out, and he's new and he's stepping out already, and I just admired his stand and his commitment to speak for those who could not speak for themselves, and using what God had blessed him with to enrich the lives of other people. And he was committed to doing that, and I admired him greatly for that. As a matter of fact, I didn't know him, but I invited him to Christmas gathering I was having at my house, and he knew Lamont Taylor. He was with him at the time, and so I said, bring him, I'd like to meet him. And so when I met him, I was impressed with him, and he just committed himself to doing what God has called us to do, and I admired him for that.
Thank you, Pastor. Is there anyone else who'd like to share anything?
Yes, he was he was an amazing person. He was much younger than I. And when they wanted him to move the church that he kept where it was there to somewhere else to get a, quote, more glorious church, and so he could do and invite, and other people would know to come to Corpus Christi and go to Reverend Carrington's church. And it would be doesn't need to be over there in the, over by here, He said, no, I'm keeping it right here. And I'll put 4 spaces in the front for people who are handicapped. If the license doesn't say they're handicapped, nobody thinks they're handicapped, but if they cannot walk good, it's to them, it's a handicap. I'm gonna keep 4 spaces, and no coloring, blue and green and red, no, just park there, right in front. And then you get in, and he was sitting up there in the front on this little flat. He said, I don't have no podium to stand up here on for y'all to see me, but I'm gonna stand here. And I got on these short sleeve shirts. I don't have no long sleeve shirts like pastor's supposed to wear with the cuffs and all that. I'm here. I just got on my little short sleeve shirts, and my name is Adam Carrington, Carrington. Come on in. Eat. Be. Oh, he was great.
Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate that.
I gotta jump in and say, first, the man can eat. If you knew him, I like to eat. And I promise that is important because I had the blessing to share many a meal with him. And I think the measure of a person is not only who they are in the public, but who they are behind closed doors. And he was the man he professed to be all the time. He was committed to the work all the time. Y'all know I have a case of a young man who got tased out in Woodsboro, young black man. The first time those defendants came to court, I put out a call and said, hey, we're gonna have a hearing, as many people as possible be there to show support. The only person who showed up, the single person who showed up, was Reverend Carrington. Wow. And he came out and he said, I'm here, brother, with you to stand in the gap. And I understand people's lives are busy. I don't begrudge anybody for not showing up. But to me, the fact that he sought it out, he went above and beyond to be there, and then of course we shared a meal, is emblematic of who he was. And we have lost a titan. I mean, it's an inestimable loss. You can't put a value on it, but he was a king among men, and I'm just blessed to have known him and to be able to follow that example, because a lot of what we talked about is what he lived in practice. The fights that he fought for the people in Hillcrest, and the consistency in those fights is really what we need to be doing. We need to call foul what we see going wrong in our society. And when we have somebody like him who's going to stand up, we need to cherish them.
Quickly, I just have to add that I echo everything that everybody has said. I was fortunate to develop a relationship with Pastor Carrington shortly after he moved here. I had moved here around the same time, and we did develop a friendship relationship. What popped out to me thinking about him was his handle on Instagram, spiritual troublemaker. And so I think that was very fitting for who he was. He always led with faith, led with love, but he was not afraid to get into that good trouble that the late great John Lewis always encourages us to get in. Like Pastor Williams said, he did it from the time he stepped foot in this community. And he always led with that. To what Dr. Scott said, his doors were always open. Even when he was in the hospital and battling his health issues, just recently with our MLK program, he allowed our sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, to have our interfaith prayer service there. He opened the doors to us every year to have it there. That is definitely the kind of man that he was, and Corpus Christi will miss him very much.
Thank you, Nikela. Anybody else? We just wanted to make, as we were talking about before we were rolling, we had reached out because, as y'all mentioned and nailed it down perfect, he was a titan in our community. And so we knew he would be such a wonderful panelist, of course, before we knew he wasn't doing so well. So absolutely, he will be missed. And thank y'all for sharing all of that.
And so we're going to switch gears now, but for our closing question, I would like for everyone to repeat the statement and finish it off. So I'll begin. Black is regal.
Black is dynamic.
Black is power.
Black is excellence.
Black is faith, family, love.
Black is beautiful.
Black is heavy.
Thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts with us and being a part of this important discussion that not only can the Black community benefit from, but everybody can benefit from this discussion.
Oh, absolutely. And for those of you who are joining us from wherever you're watching this, I hope that you're able to take away something, hopefully multiple something special from this conversation. One that I wish we could, I just want to keep y'all here all day. Y'all are so motivating and inspiring and influential. And I know you guys are all super busy. So thank y'all for spending part of your day with us to have this very important conversation and inviting our viewers to the table to have it with us.
And this will be available on our 3 News Plus app, online, of course. And we encourage you to share it with others, because like we mentioned before, everyone can benefit from what we all have learned today.
Mm-hmm. We'll see you soon.
This 3 News special feature is proudly sponsored by the Davis Law Firm.